You look great.
Okay. Hi, friends. How are you doing? My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the wonderful and very handsome Tom Jensen. I hope everyone's having a really great day. We have some interesting topics to get to because the 49ers keep winning despite all the injuries on their team. And Badass, who I'm sure will join us at some point in the chat, is going to be very happy with Tom, who consistently reverse jinxes whatever he thinks is going to happen. So let's cross our fingers when we get into the preview, Tom, that you don't think the 49ers...
I'll say what Badass has to say, but he thanked me for making the Atlanta pick. So
yeah.
Hopefully
Tom is
he followed through on that. Yeah, we'll see.
You're sacrificing yourself for the greater good.
No, I just made a stupid pick.
No.
I wish it was as noble as I fell on my sword, but it's not. Anyway.
But I hope everyone's having a good week so far, beginning of the week. It's really nice and warm here in the Bay Area, which I'm absolutely loving. First weekend that I haven't been traveling in a little while. I had back-to-back traveling trips in like 1 week, which I'm kind of not excited for because I hate being on a plane. But loving, had a really great week back in the Bay Area and with the warm weather. That I feel like people kept promising me. They were like, it's going to get warm in the Bay. It's going to get warm in the Bay. We have a late summer. Apparently their summer is in the middle of October. But I'm not complaining. It's brought a smile to me. Now, to totally tank the vibe, and then immediately I want to move on because I don't want to, make the whole stream about this. But I am back in the Bay Area. I've been living in Oakland for maybe a little over a year now. Been visiting Oakland for about 3 years now. And, grew up in Sonoma County, which is about an hour away from San Francisco. Always told everyone I was from the Bay because that's the thing. If you're from the North Bay, you lie and say you're from the Bay Area because when you travel, you're like, oh, yeah. San Francisco, that's my hometown. And you forget to mention to people who aren't familiar that actually it's about an hour and a half drive.
Well, when you're outside the area and describing where you're from, people know San Francisco. They don't know Sonoma. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that it's okay. You're allowed. And I think the Bay Area extends practically to Vacaville. Yeah, there are people in Vacaville who say they're from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So it's big. It's a big region.
That's how, you have to think about how impactful and the weight and the gravity of the Bay, that if you're anywhere within 100-mile radius, you want to claim the Bay Area.
I would take the Bay Area over saying I'm from Sacramento.
We'll take the mood of the show for 1 second. But oh, no worries. I for some reason I didn't hear what you just said, Tom. What was that?
Oh, no. If that was from Vacaville, I'd say I'm from San Francisco, not Sacramento.
Yeah. True.
Upgrade.
Okay. Doug Martin, former NFL player for the Buccaneers. He recently had his parents called the police for help. He was having a medical emergency. I think with a lot of these NFL players, and I don't want to put this on them because obviously you don't know till after they're passing and, their brain get biopsies and stuff. But CTE is a real thing at this point. The NFL has spent billions and billions of dollars to kind of quiet the coverage of CTE. And I think brain injuries are so scary. I was talking to a friend of mine who doesn't regularly watch the NFL, but I've gotten her into the storylines and stuff. And she actually saw Mike Evans' injury last night. And she was like, oh, that seems so scary to me. And I kind of agreed. And I was like, what's interesting is it wasn't like a brutal leg injury, but in the same way that for a leg injury, it's like, we need the card out here. Like, this guy can't walk. When you get hit in the head, you're wobbly like that. It's very terrifying to think about what's happening to some of these guys' brains. And, I feel like I benefit so much from the entertainment of football, and tons of people, my dad, my cousins and all that grew up playing football. So I understand it's a sport that I don't think is going anywhere, but I'm glad that we know more about brain protection. I know there's those big helmets, and I hope that technology like that only continues to evolve and exist. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because Doug Martin was going through a medical emergency. He ended up running away from his house and running into his neighbor's house. He lived in Oakland, a former NFL player, Bucks player, young guy, by the way, young, not an old guy. Not that would make it better, but early to see these types of signs. His parents called the police on him. The Oakland police came, and what happened in custody is the Oakland police recently, about a week ago, passed a rule where they're able to encrypt their like code data that is usually public. And I think Gavin Newsom might be fighting that, because I know in San Francisco and LA, different other big cities in California, it's actually illegal for that to be encrypted. Like any media who wants the report of what was called in and what happened are supposed to be able to access it. It's supposed to be public access. But anyways, Doug Martin died in police custody. When they first reported it, they said that he had, broken into someone's house. And definitely the way the initial report made it seem like Doug was, maybe trying to fight police officers and trying to rob a house is really how it was initially phrased. The family came out, and Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter both posted their statement and said, hey, this guy, he wasn't some crazy former NFL player that was robbing houses. We called the police for help. We called them. It's not like someone else called them. We called them thinking that they were going to help us. He was scared of us because he was having a medical or a psychological break, and he ran into our neighbor's house. That's much different than like breaking and entering and trying to rob someone versus like, oh, I'm scared of you because I'm going through a psychotic episode and I don't understand what you're doing, so I'm running away. I think,
and it's a neighbor, so they know who he is.
Exactly. And the family and the neighbors have both came out since the initial police statement, where the police, in my opinion, made Doug look very bad. And they both came out and was like, by the way, that's not what happened. And actually, these policemen need to be investigated because he was, going through a medical emergency and then died in their custody within, less than a couple of hours. So I'm only bringing that up because we talk about the NFL and benefit from watching the sport. And I do think that I have some sort of like obligation when things like this happen to bring it up. One, just, the dangers that could be CTE. And then also, I think there's a lot of pushback when people talk about like defunding the police or stuff like that. I live in Oakland. I've had my car broken in too. I understand the like pushback about stuff like that. Because I think that people hear words like that and they think you want less police, you want like more crime, less protection for individuals. But really at least when I was in college kind of learning about these things in psych, is it's like, no, I want to take some of that money that's going to police and bring in a number that they now have is instead of 911, 411. And 411 is a number that you can call when someone is having a psychological episode, and therapists will come, people who are trained in de-escalation, trained to, instead of, if someone's resisting arrest, instead of beating them up, they can try to talk to them and like calm them down a little bit. Sometimes a fireman or a police officer will come out with these people. But when I was at UCSB, there were people in what was called applied psych who were going into that type of career path. And I just wanted to say that, those things exist for a reason. I'm not, trying to be I'm anti the police in this particular situation, but, I'm a white girl who has been walking at night and seen a police officer and felt safer. I've had that privilege, and I understand the importance of that. But when things like this happen, I also do wish that there were additional resources and that money was put into, So anyways, I want to get into the 49ers because I know this stuff can be tricky to tackle, but it was all over my Twitter timeline. I think if you're an NFL fan and you keep up with the news, that you've never, or that you definitely had heard about this story. And I just wanted to, send a prayer to his family and just kind of at least mention his name. Black young man who initially the report was that he was like robbing a house when really he was having a mental episode and ran away to his neighbors. And both the neighbors and the parents were not scared. They were the ones that called the police, not to hurt him or to take him away because they were scared of him, but to help him. And he ended up dead. So
yeah, sad.
Total downer, and we're gonna like left turn.
Yeah, just
I don't know how to get
big
out of
time
that.
pivot.
Yeah. This is a downer, but less so because it's not as serious. Bryce Huff, who had a great game against Atlanta for the 49ers and has been the guy to step up the most since Nick Bosa's loss. He actually currently, who knows in 2 weeks from now, but currently leads the team in sacks with 4 sacks. Nick Bosa, prior to his injury, had 3. And then Michael Williams has 1, and Upton Stout also has 1. I think Sam O has 1 sack as well. But Bryce Huff had 4. He led the team in sacks. It felt like with the loss of Bosa and Fred Warner that he also forced 2 fumbles, 1 in the Atlanta game. He's been a major help for and a major key for Robert Saleh being able to kind of scheme around losing 2 Hall of Fame, or Hall of Fame caliber, all pro caliber players on his team. I think you and I in our streams have been like, they're not going to be able to withstand this. They're not going to be able to withstand this.
They
were proving that they could.
Yeah.
Is this the breaking point? Like, what does Robert Saleh do with this defense now that Bryce Huff is going to be out for, I think they said 2 weeks? We can go into they said
get vague.
Around 2 weeks, and that's never.
Because the Niners have a history saying 2 weeks doesn't mean it will be. But yeah, a minimum of 2 weeks. And so we'll see what they do. But yeah, it hurts to lose Huff because he's playing well. And not just as a pass rusher, but he showed that he could defend the run too. So he's really helping them. And Uturgos Matos is on IR. So they're down people. It's just, I don't know how Saleh does it, but somehow he manages to find a way. But this makes it that much harder. The thing that balances out against it, though, at least in playing Houston, they've got the worst offensive line in the league. So that helps.
If it is the 2 weeks, you can think, okay, Houston, at least they have a horrible offense right now. They don't seem able to score at all. If you are able to blitz, how have they been making it work even with Bryce Huff? You would say a ton of quarterback blitzes, a ton of safety blitzes. That's what they did in Atlanta, right? They blitzed much more.
Yeah. Well, what Saleh did was simulated pressure. So you show 6 and then you send 4, but the opposing quarterback doesn't know which 4. There can be delayed blitzes. And he did a lot of that where he would just time it up and keep the Falcons confused. And that's how they got a lot of pressure. So that doesn't necessarily require the talent of a Bryce Huff. It just requires execution of, as long as we show 6, send 4, and keep them guessing, we've got a shot. But obviously it's harder without Huff, but it doesn't mean it's impossible because they can scheme up a way. And they're also very good at stunts and get a lot of pressure off the stunts too. So there are ways they can, but it gets harder when you just keep losing the best player left in the defense. Gone. At some point, you can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I agree with Julie that Saleh in this last game, smoke and mirrors. It was in one of the best defensive game plans I've seen. And I've seen 50 years of 49er football. That's how good it was.
I'm thinking of, like, when I'm thinking of the loss of Bryce Huff, it sucks that Michael Williams and Alfred Collins, it'd be really helpful if they could pressure the quarterback, rush the passer a little bit. Now,
that's not where they're at, though.
Yeah, they're run stoppers, good at setting the edge. I'm not trying to down them, but it's just like, to me, I'm like, where do we go from here? Chase Lucas was one of the guys who was blitzing a lot towards the end of the game when he came in. And he's probably going to continue to be the starter. I'll get into kind of the injury report. But it looks like Chase Lucas will continue to start, and he was inspiring, so that's good.
He keeps proving that he's a playmaker when it matters, and those are the guys you want on the field.
When we're looking, and I guess this is a little early to be previewing the Texans, but when I'm thinking about Bryce Huff, the thing is the Texans have a horrible O-line. I also think, speaking of concussions and stuff, Nico Collins, I don't think will be available.
Yeah.
And Tom, the Texans looked horrible last night. Like that,
Yeah, well,
that game, they lost, and they should have lost by like 2 more touchdowns. Like the Seahawks were missing opportunities left and right.
Right.
And they still like won by quite a bit, but I mean, it shouldn't have even been close.
It should have been a blowout.
It looked like it was kind of a back and forth.
Right.
Watching it was so clear that the Seahawks were like on a different. There was just like a random missed kick or the fumble that should have been a pick six, like stuff like that. Yeah. But when you were watching
errors,
it,
but they add up.
The vibe was not that those two offenses were on the same level at all, though.
No question. And, Seattle could have won that game in a blowout where they double Houston's score.
Yeah.
They just tripped over themselves and kept it close. But that doesn't mean that the Texans weren't thoroughly outplayed, because they were. And so what's Houston going to do? I mean, they regret firing Bobby Slowick now because the offensive coordinator they brought in is worse.
Yeah.
And at least Slowick knew what he was doing to an extent. And look where he had C.J. Stroud. And where's Stroud now?
He's regressed so much, Tom.
23 for 49, 227 yards, 3 sacks. He had a QBR of 25. That's really low. His passer rating was under 60. So it's just
there was like a
part of this is their GM doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't invested in offensive line even more than Shanahan. No. That's hard to do. But he did. And so they've got the worst line. And they've got an offensive coordinator that's in over his head. And both of those are great news for the Niners.
I do agree with Jesus, who says the Texans' defense will be
a whole their defense is great.
For sure. But offensively, I mean, in the game last night, there was like a 3 offensive play, like a sequence where the Texans punted 3 offensive drives in a row. And it was like, C.J. Stroud, immediate pressure, ball back here, fumbles the ball backwards. Then it was like another one, interception. The next one was like an interception. The other one was he's running, he's facing pressure, he tries to run out of pressure, he's running backwards like the wrong way, gets sacked. Like it was I at one point I went like this. I was like, I feel bad watching how bad this is you're playing right now.
It's you almost feel bad for Stroud because, dude, I'm sorry that you're stuck in this mess. But all of that is a sign of a team that's confused, an offensive coordinator that doesn't have them prepared, and it doesn't have them ready. They're a train wreck right now. Yeah. Somehow they can still score 19 points like they did against Seattle, but they weren't in the game, as you pointed out. So. And then, the Niners have no excuse. They need to win this game, and Houston is tripping over themselves too. And so take advantage while you're there. Get it done. As long as they take care of the football and they play sound defense, they should be okay.
I completely agree. So I think I'm hopeful that the 49ers, even with the loss of Bryce Huff, would be able to scrape out of the Texans game with a win. And then if it really is only 2 weeks, which is a big if because they said around and we never know. Then the 49ers are going to be facing the Giants. I know that they're not thinking ahead, but I am just with Bryce Huff right now. And the Giants are going to be a much harder team to beat without Bryce Huff because they have a running game and Jackson Dart can play well. We have some people in here saying, they're not going to be an easy feat. But I think even if you're able to split, win the Texans game, lose the Giants game, you still have a great record. The Texans are in division or like in the NFC. So
yeah,
I think I'm crossing my fingers if I'm being optimistic and, believing the 2 weeks thing. I'm hopeful that they'll be able to scheme up enough simulated pressure, as you put it, to kind of make it out, at least splitting the next 2 games. And then I would just cross our fingers that we get Bryce Huff back. If crossing our fingers and, trying to bank on a timeline for injury given by the Niners seems stupid to everyone in the chat listening, I would agree. maybe a different solution, Tom, would be, are the 49ers going to make a trade? Now, I don't think the Giants are going to trade. You've mentioned this for multiple weeks. Even when the Giants were bad, you were like, they're not going to give you their best player right before you meet up with them. Well, now they're actually winning games, so I think it's even less likely. On the Twitter timeline, feels like once every 2 months this gets brought up. 49er fans, I think, really just want it to happen. What about Max Crosby? That's the new trade rumor. Should the 49ers go get Max Crosby? Is it possible?
No,
I think
it's not.
Question, like I said, about
how many times do I have to say this? Mark Davis refuses to trade with the Niners. Mark Davis refuses to trade with the Niners. Mark Davis refuses to trade with the Niners. Stop it. He's not doing it. The Niners made the best offer in the league for Khalil Mack, and Mark Davis said, that ain't happening. I'm not trading him. Well, but now he's in Vegas. Now he's got Tom Brady. Stop. Stop wishing. It's not going to happen, period, end of story. No. I get that you want the best player available. I get that you love Max Crosby. Not happening, period. Not. Sorry. Okay, I will get off my soapbox now. No, it won't. All right,
I have a follow-up.
So who could it happen?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
That my follow-up was, well, first of all, it was going to be if a demon came down from, under the ground and possessed Mark Davis to saying yes, could the 49ers afford Max Crosby? I was looking at his contract. It's obviously a good deal
big
for the caliber of player he is,
sure.
But it is expensive.
Yeah.
They already paid Nick Bosa. He's on the team.
Yeah. They're hoping to unload Brandon Ayuk, and that will give them more money to then play with.
Oh, so it'd be
and
like
so on net, all you're doing is you're taking that money and you're giving it to Max Crosby, in theory. But no. I appreciate the kind words, Julie, but I've been wrong a lot. But on this, I don't think so. It's just the Niners made the best offer by far, according to many reports, for Khalil Mack. And Mark Davis shut it down immediately and said, I am not trading to them. People can say, well, but this time it's different. Now they're in Vegas. Now Tom Brady. No. Stop wishing it into being. Don't be Kyle and John. Don't wish stuff into being. It's just move on to the next thing. There are other people that they can get. I realize it's not Trey Hendrickson. It's not Max Crosby, but just let it go.
In our chat right now, people are suggesting, what about Arden Key, getting him back?
That's possible. Sure. Tennessee's going nowhere. Arden Key isn't a critical piece. It's just, for them, the only players that they've really said they won't trade are Jeffrey Simmons, who Niner fans also want. And they've said, we're not trading Simmons.
Lifetime guy, right?
Right. And they're not going to trade Cam Ward. So those are the two guys they protected. Everybody else, the Tennessee roster is available, according to most reports. But Arden Key, Arden Key is eminently doable, but hopefully the Niners can do better. So who could they get? There's rumors of Jermaine Johnson, linebacker, pass rusher with the Jets. Good young player. Saul's worked with him, knows him, trusts him. And you saw what Saleh did in saying, I want Bryce Huff. Look how well that worked.
Yeah.
Saleh knows what he wants and knows who fits what he needs. So that's a possibility. Will McDonald, the rush edge, designated pass rusher for the Jets, he's very similar to Huff in that he's a speed rusher. He's a quick, undersized guy. So he's not someone that can really play the run. He's almost a twin of Bryce Huff. So if you want Huff, Will McDonald. The other ones are Miami. Jalen Phillips, who has had a history of injury trouble, ACL.
Yeah.
But this year he's playing well and playing healthy. So we'll see if they can make that happen. Bradley Chubb, the problem with him is while he's a great player, costs a ton. And that would be a difficult thing to do. I think Chubb is like 15, 20 million going forward.
Maybe not worth that.
Yeah, and Curtis Granderson of the Saints, same thing. He's getting $18 million a year for the next two. So I would think that it's more along the lines of somebody that's younger, cheaper, that can be a depth piece long term. I think that they don't want to rent anybody. They want to get someone and then plug them in once you say, okay, Bosa's back. How does this person fit? they're the third edge in the rotation. That's what they're looking for, is a young edge player that can fit the rotation as third, fourth guy at the edge. And that's where Jermaine Johnson fits really well. Jalen Phillips fits really well.
Yeah. I feel like the 49ers might actually have a good chance of getting him too.
Maybe. The problem is that now that Cincinnati has said we're not going to trade Trey Hendrickson, now that the Giants are playing better and they might take Thibodeau off of the market.
Got it.
So more people are competing for fewer players.
I see what you mean.
It's going to make it harder. The other problem is Niner fans say, well, we need to trade for somebody now. And the problem is when you've got one of the edges that everybody wants, you're going to hold out to the very last minute.
Yeah.
You're going to make the trade on the deadline because that's when you're going to get the most value.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to get somebody early. Hopefully they can do that with somebody like Jermaine Johnson, but we'll see. You have to be willing to pay a premium to get somebody early. I don't think the Niners will be willing to do that, so they're just going to wait it out. We're going to have to wait until the 4th, and then something happens.
The 4th would be after the Giants game, but before.
Yeah, the Giants are on the 2nd.
Got it.
As I've said for a long time, part of the danger of the Giants game isn't who wins or loses, but if they can avoid injury on the worst surface in the NFL.
See, I'm not completely opposed if it's the right guy to waiting to make the trade at the deadline, because where you're really going to see a loss of Warner, Bosa, Bryce Huff, if he's not back, is going to be in that Rams rematch. Matthew Stafford has been, he's looked incredible his last 2 games. I'm surprised. I don't know how he kind of falls under the radar. I'm surprised he's not in that MVP conversation. I heard Baker talking about it, Patrick Mahomes obviously in there. I'm not saying those guys don't deserve the hype, but if you look at what Stafford's been doing recently, it's really incredible. And it kind of doesn't matter who his wide receiver is. He can make that guy look like a star. I think that
he's playing really
rematch will be a big deal for the Niners. Go ahead.
Yeah, no question. The Rams are a threat. Stafford should be in the MVP conversation, but because he's in LA, doesn't happen.
Yeah. I'm looking in the chat. Our chat, there's people that aren't a big fan of Max Crosby. I don't know. I think he's a stellar player who honestly,
he's a great player.
He's a great player who I think he kind of had a bad agent. Like, the contract is too much for the 49ers because they've already locked down a guy like Nick Bosa. Right. But the Raiders got their Nick Bosa for like half the price. Like, he signed a deal that was great. I feel like he's been very loyal.
But it's still really expensive, though. It's still hard for the Niners to fit it in. Yeah. And I still Mark Davis is not going to.
I agree that he's probably not worth it for the Niners, but I think as like a player, he seems to be a guy who always wants to be out on the field and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Crosby's an all-pro. He's a great player. The Niners prefer Trey Hendrickson. They see him as a better fit. But yeah, the beggars can't be choosers. If the Raiders were if somebody hypnotized Mark Davis into making the deal, okay, great. Would you take Max Crosby? Sure. Would you pay up for him? Yeah, I think they would. Because part of the equation here is the Niners look at the league and say, there's no dominant team this year. Anybody can win this if they get hot late. And we can be one of those teams. And so the entire league is thinking that way, and it's why the deadline is going to be active. Because there's a lot of teams that think they're one trade away.
Yeah. And then Leon kind of agrees with you. I think Tom dies 1% a little bit inside every time he's forced to discuss the Max Crosby to the 49ers trade rumors. I swear we've had this discussion about 5 times this season.
Right.
And every time he's like, I know why people want it to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
But
I get it, though. Fans want the best player available, and they're going to wish it into being. But no, not this time.
And then what I would say to Badass, I think you can't judge a book by its cover. I don't care if people have tattoos, no tattoos, like who are they inside and how do they treat others? I don't know how Max Crosby treats others because I don't know him as a person.
He's a great teammate. Everybody says he's a great teammate.
And I wouldn't write people off just because of tattoos. I think that's a little bit silly.
That's not. No, he's great player, great human. There's no question.
Yeah, he always has. I feel like this Leon always has good questions that are kind of specific. quickly for you, Tom. What do you think about Tyler Lockett requested a trade?
Sure.
I don't know if the 49ers need him right now, but
Well,
you go
they
ahead and
let
give
him
your
go. He's going to be available on waivers. It's not that you have to trade for him.
so he wouldn't even get to the
But
Niners.
but there are a lot of teams in front of the Niners in terms of the preference order where you pick somebody on waivers if somebody's willing to do that. And it might be that the league is just going to wait for him to clear waivers and then he's going to just decide where he wants to go. But yeah, if I'm the Niners, would I be interested in Tyler Lockett? Sure.
I don't know. Like, I feel like they're going to, maybe start to get some of their pass catchers back. The issue that sucks, and we said this about Ricky Pearsall to start the season, when he's on the field, he's great. We've even seen flashes earlier this year where we're like, hey, he's starting to look like the first round pick. But a part of being a good wide receiver, someone who's deserving of a second contract, which obviously we're far from even talking about with him, but you got to be on the field. And he just has not proven he can be on the field yet.
Yeah, availability is becoming a long-term concern with Ricky, which is unfortunate given all that he's gone through. But it's the reality. He can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And the problem for the Niners is, okay, if you're going to move on from Ayuk and Jeffries, I'm assuming they're gone as of the offseason. That's going to force another draft pick on a wide receiver.
No more
gonna
of
happen.
those. We don't
Guaranteed.
need any more of those. I do think since we're talking about trades and guys who are available versus not, I should really quickly give the updated injury report post Atlanta Falcons game. The 49ers have NFL has a league-wide day off today, but this was coming into this morning, and then we'll know more of Wednesday who's actually participating. But starting with Ricky Pearsall, they're going to test him out on Wednesday, but Kyle did not seem optimistic that he would be able to return. Renardo
and
Green.
Then do you want Pearsall to come back against New York? No. I would hold him out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, because you don't want him playing at MetLife either, right? Oh, terrifying.
I don't want anybody playing on MetLife.
No, I know. What if they just waive that game? Hey, I think our record is good. We could take the L. We're just going to skip this one. Renardo Green is out with a toe injury. It's not turf toe, so that's good. Upton Stout has an ankle, but like I said, Chase Lucas looked great for him. Bryce Huff has the hamstring. Jake Brendel is going to be out with a hamstring. Matt Hennessy played really well.
He played well.
In place of Jake Brendel, so that's great. And then Brock Purdy still out with that toe injury. Kyle was asked, are they going to continue to evaluate him? Is there a possibility of him playing? And Kyle basically shut it down. He said he did not say Brock Purdy is for sure out and Mac is the starter. I think that they wanted to maybe give it a little bit more time before outwardly putting that NFL designation on him, but he basically said all about that because someone, had him clarify after they said like, oh, we're going to continue to monitor him. One of the beat reporters on the phone call yesterday said, oh, okay, so is there a chance he could, play? And Kyle said no. And I was like, oh, okay. So he's out then?
So we'll see. So getting briefly into that, I researched that a little bit. I've got a story out tomorrow on what the Niners can do to build up their offense over the next offseason, draft, free agency, etc.
Okay.
For Purdy, here's the thing. You can say he needs surgery, but there was a study by Johns Hopkins in 2023. Athletes who have turf toe, unless it's a severe tear, third grade tear, they say, no, you have to just rest it. And according to their study, only 2% of the athletes that they studied in this were actual surgery candidates.
Got it.
And as far as I know, Brock is not third grade tear. He's bad, but not that bad. And therefore, surgery is not going to be an option. If we trust that study, and Johns Hopkins, one of the best medical institutions in the country, that ain't happening. So Brock's going to have to wait and just see what happens, but he doesn't really have a choice. He's got to sit. And that might not be a bad thing given the defensive lines that the Niners are going to be facing. Yeah. Houston, best defensive line in the league. Giants, top 5.
Yeah.
And then you got the Rams, and they're one of the top 5 too. So it's just the Niners have this murderer's row of defensive lines that they're facing. And that's not the time to bring Brock Purdy back. It's also not the time to bring him back and say, okay, here we are in New York on MetLife. Go play, Brock.
No,
It's
oh my
just,
gosh.
no. That would be a really bad idea. So I think holding Brock out is best for him and best for the team, that it gives Brock an opportunity to get fully healthy. He's not going to have surgery on that toe. He's just going to have to wait it out. And fortunately, the Niners have Mac Jones and they win. So they're good.
During the Atlanta Falcons game, they kind of panned over to Brock for a second. And the sideline reporter had talked to Brock, and he said it was one of the most frustrating injuries he's ever dealt with, because basically you tweak it wrong, you hit it wrong, it sets you all the way back. So I know you and I have done this before, but I really think whoever cleared Brock Purdy to play 3 weeks ago did some serious damage to, one, Brock's reputation, but two, the initial timeline that Ian Rappaport put out was that it was anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks. 5 weeks would be over right now if they had just rested him. But now it feels like when he re-injured that toe, that timeline reset. So now it's like, actually you could have, another month out because
probably
you got pushed back so much.
Because you rushed him back too soon. And I think what happens in all of that is that who's ultimately to blame on that? Kyle, because Kyle wanted to play Brock, because Mac Jones was even more hurt than Brock in that week. And Kyle, with his focus on next game, wants to do everything possible to win that game. And that meant playing Purdy as opposed to Adrian Martinez, because Adrian Martinez plays, that's the victory cigar for the other team. You can't do that, so he plays Purdy. So who's to blame for this? Really, Kyle. But that's Kyle being competitive. That's Kyle not having any advanced planning. That's Kyle only thinking in the moment. All that's true. But as it turns out, it might still work out for the best for the Niners, because they get Mac Jones, who gets the ball out sooner, and that's exactly what you want when you're facing all of these terror defensive lines back to back to back.
Completely agree. We have people in the comments kind of arguing with whether or not did Kyle rush Purdy out? Did Purdy want to come back? I think
probably a mix of the two. You never can just say it's one person only. And I just did, but then that's me going off on Kyle like I always do. Brock could have wanted to get back in too, because he knows how he got his job. He got his job through injury. And so he's saying, Mac's playing well, I better get back on the field. That could be true too. The point is, we're never really going to know who's at fault. Chances are it's both. But the reality is, in the end, it's going to help the Niners, because when they face these defenses led by their D-lines, you need Mac Jones starting.
Quick release, get the ball out. Exactly. I agree that I think it's going to be okay because they have Mac Jones, and his play style actually seems to benefit with the D lines that they're facing versus a Brock Purdy. But I do think that it's a little bit malpractice that he was put out there. I'm sure Brock Purdy, who's someone we know has played through rib injuries, played through other injuries before, I'm sure he wanted to go back out there. I think that that's where Kyle, as a head coach, has to step in and say no. But we know that Kyle wanted to win, as you said, and didn't want to play Adrian Martinez. I just don't think I think you're supposed to try to protect your franchise quarterback. So I don't think it's a great look that he went out there and now his, toe has had such a setback. But one thing that I did want to address, because I see it in the comments right now, and I have thought this way in the past, but learned that this is actually an incorrect narrative that a lot of people buy into. Okay, so people are talking about the training staff, and some people in the comments said we need new training staff. And Tommy, which is, by the way, this is how I've responded in the past too, is that they have transferred, or in what I thought was fired and rehired other training staff multiple times under Kyle Shanahan. Johnny Odell, he has like the Football Academy on YouTube. He's a 49ers content creator, breaks down a lot of film. He wrote a post and pinned it today clarifying And then I double checked with one of the 49ers beat reporters to clarify this is true. The 49ers only let go of the two, or Kyle Shanahan only let go of the two trainers that were at the top. And actually they only let go of one of them. The other one got like promoted to go somewhere else. They didn't go get brand new training staff. They just promoted guys that were under them. So they actually have not totally revamped their training staff at all. The guy who is in charge of it right now came with Kyle Shanahan when Kyle Shanahan got hired. So he's been here the entire time. They have not gotten new training staff. And I do think it's fair to start looking at the training staff. Is some of this
absolutely
some of the injuries flukes? Yes.
Some of them are. Fred Warner, you can't say that Fred Warner is a victim of process. That's 10 defenders on the field and then his own man running up on his leg and injuring him. And that's just a fluke thing.
Yes.
But I'm with you that why haven't we just cashiered this entire group wholesale and brought somebody else in?
It's not working.
Right.
8 out of 9 seasons, the 49ers have been top 10 or even top 5 most injured team.
Yeah,
that's no longer a fluke. If you look at like probability and statistics, you are doing something that is causing that.
Yeah, if it's there has to be some causal factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not just the 8 out of 10 worst teams on injury. We're now on pace for being the most injured team in the league this year, which would be 3 of the last 4.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And if I'm Jed York, I'm saying, I don't care that this guy came in with you. He's gone.
He's horrible.
And I want you, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, to canvass the league for best practices, best people, and bring them here. Because we have to redo whatever process we have is not working. We have to change this. And we've got history to prove it's not working. I don't care what relationship you've got with this guy that came in with you. He has to leave. They have to start over.
We're talking about like coincidences and stuff. And obviously some injuries are preventable, but hamstring injuries as a former athlete often have to do a lot with conditioning, with stretching, dynamic warm-ups, cooling down.
Yeah.
Right now, since June, just this year, not as you said, this is 8 out of 9 seasons the 49ers have been in category of
top
some
10
of the most
worst
injured teams.
Yeah.
But just since June, not very long, the 49ers have had 8 guys with hamstring injuries.
Yep.
I mean, that at some that's taking out the fluke, the Fred Warner, no one can, although, hey, there's 10 men on the field, someone do your job, and maybe that doesn't happen. But that injury isn't because of strength and conditioning. We know that Fred Warner is in excellent shape. But they have Pearsall, Cowing, Renardo Green, Isaac Rendo, George Kittle, Yatira Gross-Matos, who can't stay healthy, whether it's his knee, hamstring, whatever, Jake Brendel, now Bryce Huff. That's 8 players since June, just of this year, who are not their hamstrings are not conditioned to playing NFL football.
That speaks to process. You're not stretching it out enough. Either you're not spending enough time stretching, or you're not doing the right exercises, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Regardless, it speaks to process when you have this many soft tissue injuries. And so they've got to do something about this. But my thing is, look, canvass the league, figure out who has this down, hire their best person or somebody that's a lieutenant, and get them to instill a new system here. Because what we're doing now has proven to be the worst process in the NFL. 3 of the 4 past years, most injured team in the league. 8 of the 9 years, top 10 worst in the league. You can't tell me that's just football. It's not.
No. We talk a lot about do Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and by the way, one of my topics is should they be, is Kyle coach of the year? Robert Saleh definitely probably assistant coach of the year. So we're going to give them their praise, but I do think this is a fair thing to critique. And we'll look at the offensive line and we'll go, okay, Kyle, where's your priority? You can't pay a franchise quarterback. You can't let your franchise quarterback play behind this offensive line and decide that that's where you're going to bargain bin shop. Right now, I saw a stat on, and it was on Twitter, so I don't know how accurate, but that they're paying almost $1 billion with a B, dollars if you total up all the players that are sitting on the bench. There's almost $1 billion on the bench. Then,
Right. Well, their
you
collective
think back to this
contracts for this.
offseason, you
Yeah,
think
it's
back
not
to
just
the
this year.
trades where they don't want to spend money, and it's like, yeah, because they're spending shit tons of money on guys who are not contributing to this team. So, like, is it a little extra process to, as you say, go out and find the hey, what teams are are consistently, the 49ers are always the most injured? Which teams are always top 5 and least injured? I'm going to go to that guy and say, what are you making? I'm going to freaking double it. I don't care. Hey, that seems like a lot of money. We don't want to do that. We don't. Someone's talking about in the chat that out of everyone, they decided to promote from within because that was a way for them to save money. You're going to save money if the players that you're paying are on the field. Because right now, they're paying almost $1 billion for people on the bench. So now they have to spend money and resources, if it's future draft picks, whatever, on players to make up for the gaps because their guys are injured. Like, that would be something that you didn't have to worry about as much. Obviously, football, there's going to be injuries, but at the level that the 49ers are dealing with.
In this volume, it's there's no excuse. And so, you want to save money on your strength and conditioning staff. Look at the cost to your football team. 3 of the 4 past years, the most injured team in the league. Is it going to matter that you save $30,000 on some guy that's the trainer? Really? Is that what you're doing? Yeah. What's the franchise worth?
Yeah.
And you're doing this? Yeah. Why are you pinching pennies on, we can save a little bit of money because we're going to pro from within? At what point do you say, big picture, guys, if we stay healthy, we can win a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Hello?
Guess what makes you a ton of money, not just for that season, but for seasons to come. Like, why? A lot of you in the chat, me, why might I understand? Because they were winning Super Bowls, and that's how you grow your fan base. And then you have people who are buying season tickets, people who are buying merch, like, for years and years to come. That's how you make money.
Sure.
Not by pinching. Like, they think so. And I hate
it's
to be
the mindset. It's the mindset of people that are too rich.
Yeah.
Let's save the extra $10,000 here, and you're costing yourself millions because you're not winning a Super Bowl. It's just dumb. Speaking of Super Bowls, I wanted to address this. Jesus asked me in the chat, 94 Niners blow away the rest of the Niner teams? No. The 84 Niners team that beat Miami, that's the best Niner team of all time. Now, granted, the 94 team was loaded, and they took advantage of a lot of things where Carmen cheated on the salary cap for the 94 team. And the 94 team was ridiculous. They destroyed the Chargers. The score should have been worse. Dion beat one of their guys badly. Steve Young put the ball on target, and the guy just tackled Dion to prevent it. They didn't call pass interference because the game was already a blowout. Had they not called that and allowed that, and had they called that, the Niners just keep on scoring. So that 94 team was loaded, but that 84 team was phenomenal. I think the 84 team wins that matchup. Every other team, if I had to rank them, 84-1, 94-2. Then the back-to-back years, and then the 82 team, the first Super Bowl was by far the weakest of all of them. Not even close.
I was not born yet, but I love the conversation.
Sorry. Anyway,
I think my birth caused my birth caused like a horrible drought, and the 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since 1990.
Yeah, well, and you know why, Ashley? Yeah. Why haven't the Niners won a ring yet under Kyle? Offensive line.
It's good though. They don't need that, Tom. I don't know why you're being a negative Nancy. Okay, they got to save money somewhere. Why wouldn't they choose the training staff and the offensive line? Those are two things that don't matter to a football team. And I think you bringing that up makes you a hater.
Okay.
So, okay, I want to take a huge pivot then, and this will be our last topic. critiqued Kyle and John Lynch in the process of building a football team, which I feel like mainly when we critique them, that is what we are criticizing. It's the way they draft, the things that they prioritize. Like, it's the setting up. It's not necessarily, sometimes it is the X's and O's, but a lot of times it's not the X's and O's. It's like, hey, you're not an offensive coordinator. You want to act like the GM, so you're taking away power from your GM, but you're a bad GM. You don't know what to prioritize. You're cutting corners. So that's us being negative. But the 49ers have won a shit ton of games with, their starting quarterback
despite the
out,
injuries. Yeah.
Multiple Hall of Famers out. Their starting wide receiver out. Their Hall of Fame tight end just came back. Didn't catch a pass, which I thought was interesting.
He said before the game, I'm violently out of shape. Great George Kittle
you said
quote.
You said that. So I have a question. Did they play him? Like, do you think that there was some sort of like, we need you to be in there and block, but we understand that you can't run out all the routes? Like, that's
partially. I think part of the game plan was using Kittle as a decoy, and they were on him. They would double Kittle downfield regularly because they worried about him catching the ball. And then George was just this pile driver of he'd come in and just bulldoze Falcons. It was fun to watch. And obviously they missed it because with Kittle on the field, 5 yards a carry, without him 2. That's how much of a difference he makes. So yeah, they need him. And he'll get better. It's one of those things where he's going to need to ramp up, but I think he's probably not going to be in game shape probably for another 2-3 weeks.
Okay. They made an adjustment from outside zone running to running through the tackles. Was that specifically to target like the way the Falcons play football? Are they going to continue that going against the Texans? What's their offensive strategy? Because like we said, Texans offense totally sucks. I'm nervous about the 49ers defense, not because I don't believe in Kyle or Robert Saleh. He's been working magic, but he's really scraping the bottom. There's only so much creativity you can have when every player goes down.
When you're missing so many people.
To score some points. How are they going to do that against this really good defense?
Yeah. So part of the reason they went middle and went inside and they ran power and duo and gap running scheme is Atlanta has speed, but not power in their front seven. Their linebackers are really fast, but you can block them. And that's what the Niners did. So they said, these guys are really quick. If we set back up and pass, they're going to come after us and hunt us down. But if we block them straight on and just say, okay, hat in a hat, power through these guys, they don't have the bulk power, the core strength to stop it. That's what the Niners did. It's just, we're going to back up the bulldozers and we're going to go right at you, speed demons, and we're going to rush the ball really effectively. And they did. Can you do that against Houston? No. Houston has a better balance in terms of the body composition of their players. So that their defensive linemen are bigger, their linebackers are bigger, their safeties are better. So they're not built for just one way to win. And that's D'Amico. D'Amico knows that you need multiple skill sets, multiple body types. So it's not like the Niners can just do the same thing with the same success. They won't. But it does show them that they can have more confidence running inside, and that now that they have Kittle, they can do that. Prior to Kittle, they had 1.5 yards per carry inside. And then with Kittle, they had success. So it's now that you have Kittle, you can do that. So all it does really is just give the Niners more flexibility. It gives Kyle a lot more diversity in what he can call. And that's a good thing. But to beat this Houston defense, basically it's identify where the blitzes are coming from, make sure you've got people chipping, and make sure you deal with that defensive line because it's the best in the league. They are deep. They are great in their front four. And so it's just Mac Jones, get the ball out and do what you need to do.
Get the ball out quickly. I have a question. This was something my dad brought up, and maybe the answer is just like he's a third wide receiver, so it doesn't really matter. Third at best wide receiver. But with Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne had 2 of his best games in the NFL this season. They looked like in really, really good rhythm. And then they didn't really throw to him much against the Falcons. He didn't really get involved. Do you think that he could be a bigger factor against the Texans. Why did that happen? I saw they targeted Jennings more and it was working, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, that's part of it is that Juwan was back, but part of it also was that Kyle's game plan called for them to run 40 times. That's what his goal was.
So they were just
They
throwing.
ran, and they ran 37, so they were real close.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of it is that when you face teams where it's just pass, then Bourne will get more involved. And it'll probably be more balanced. I think Bourne will get more opportunities against Houston than he did against Atlanta. But that you still have to expect, though, that as Jennings returns, as Kittle returns, that Kendrick Bourne is going to be less featured. That's the way it should be.
I completely agree. Everyone, listen to Edgar and make sure that you're liking the stream. Also, if you're liking what Tom is saying, he broke down the Falcons game before and after, previewed it, saying what you should most look out for, and then broke it down. You said you have an article coming out tomorrow about some of the offensive line and different.
Different stuff. So I've got a two-parter where it's looking at the roster moves they could consider, draft and free agency, on offense tomorrow, on defense the next day, and then the game preview after that. So look for those. Hopefully that'll be up by late morning, early afternoon tomorrow for the offense one, and we'll see how that goes.
And that's Ninercast on Twitter.
Yeah, Ninercast. Thanks for that.
Really quickly before because I don't want to end it quite yet. Badass. We're so lucky to have Salah back. I completely agree. Tom, are they going to lose him in 1 year or no?
They could, because this game was a masterpiece. It's just you look at it and say, okay, how many defensive coordinators can figure out how to stop Bijan Robinson and box him in? Very few. He's been, he's third leading rusher in the league on just rushing. Plus, he's all those yards as a receiver as well. And Christian McCaffrey had 129 yards rushing, and Bijan had 40. Nobody has that on their bingo card except Robert Saleh. He knew. And I think you have to give Saleh a ton of credit. The one that I was blown away by was he saw the importance of Drake London. He said, we are going to double Drake London with a DB for coverage, and then either a linebacker or a safety for physicality. And that combination will take Drake London out of the game. And if we take Drake London out, Michael Penix won't be in rhythm, and he'll fall apart. And that's exactly what happened. It's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant to say, I'm going to take away Drake London. Everybody says we've got to take away Bijan.
Did you hear Chase Lucas talk about that too? Like how Robert Saleh prepared them and set them up for, he was like, I knew that was going to happen when I saw it because of Kate Saleh gave him.
Yeah, exactly. Saleh is a genius. And so he said that if he sets up in the slot, he's running an option route outside. Chase played him for that. He overcommitted early to get to the ball outside, and that's how he broke up the pass. The ball went through Lucas's hands, but it still disrupted the ball and the vision that London had, and so there's nothing he could do. And then that was an incompletion. So it speaks to the preparation that here's Chase Lucas. He didn't expect to start, and he was absolutely ready for that play and made the play. And he's done that before this season of making a play where he contributes to the game-winning play. And that's your backup DB. Chase Lucas is going to play a big role in this game because
I like his attitude too. He seems
his
very
energetic,
great. Very physical, all that.
And a veteran, 28 years old. He's been through the league a bit, and he had nothing but praise for what Saleh did. But Chase is going to be important because if Stout can't play, and he's questionable right now, then the slot receiver for Houston is going to be the leading receiver in this game because Nico Collins is probably going to miss it. And so who are they going to target instead? Their tight end and their slot guy. And Jalen Noel from Iowa State, he's a great slot player. He's probably going to be their leading receiver in terms of touches, catches, targets. And so Chase Lucas is going to have to play him and going to have to do a good job. That's one of the key people they've got to stop. And Chase is going to be directly involved in that.
Tom, can I ask you? It's a little going backwards. I know we're trying to end the show, but I realized I hadn't talked to you since the game. What did you think about Tatum Bethune in for Fred Warner?
He played great. He played superb. Superb. And you have to give a lot of credit both to Saleh and Bethune stepping up and saying, okay, I got this. Because you think of all the communication mistakes they made against Tampa. and they had none against Atlanta. And that's solid preparation. That's Bethune preparing and saying, I'm ready for this moment. 10 tackles, no communication issues. That's really impressive to do that in a week when you haven't had a lot of games played. Now, there's also a contributing factor to all that, though. Atlanta's offensive coordinator did not target the Niners' middle that often. And now we'll see if Houston knows any better. Their offensive coordinator being dumb, maybe not. But if they go middle with the ball, that's how you can test Tatum Bethune. He's not a great pass coverage linebacker. And so we'll see if Houston does that. But based on what we just saw against Seattle, I'm not counting on Houston's OC to do anything smart.
Their offense is it's regressed so significantly. Now maybe they'll be able to pull it out. Like I said, this defense, we're giving Robert Saleh a lot of praise. Eventually you run out of, what is it when you get you pull something out of a hat?
There's no rabbits left. You're just you're grabbing air. But he finds a way, and we'll see. But I think the key to the game is that Houston CJ Stroud is not CJ Stroud under this offensive coordinator.
No.
In theory, they'll go shopping. The chat had earlier that Mike McDaniel, the OC in Houston, that could happen because D'Amico and Mike McDaniel were in San Francisco together.
Mike McDaniel is still hired. I thought he was going to get fired after the game on Sunday.
Well,
I guess who do they have better? Their defense sucks too. It's not like they're going to promote their D coordinator or something. I feel like sometimes when they let go of the head coach, they have like an internal, like a midterm internal guy that they're like, okay, he could be better for a couple weeks until the new season. But right now, it's just like I feel like they might wait out the season and then new quarterback, new defense, new offense, like go all at once.
Yeah, they could, but the owner has given a vote of confidence to McDaniel. He still likes his creativity, and he saw what McDaniel was able to do on offense. But it can also be that the owner is being somewhat cheap. He doesn't want to pay a coach not to coach, and so you let him coach for the whole season. That could be a factor too. But I think that's a strong possibility for next year. Is that assuming Mike McDaniel's let go, he could go to Houston because he and D'Amico have a relationship. And they're going to be shopping. So that's a possibility. But McDaniel's going to be in huge demand as an OC.
Yeah.
Half the league is going to be saying, come coach for us.
As someone who was bought into the hype the first year with CJ Stroud and actually thought he played well. And I want D'Amico to succeed. I think it's so hard as a defensive coordinator. I'd like to see that. I think it could be,
absolutely. I want to see D'Amico succeed, and I want to see CJ get back to where he was because he's
it's hard to see a guy
emerging talents in the league and now off a cliff because the OC's dumb.
Yeah,
that's tough.
And we see so many of these guys 10 years later playing well, and you're like, oh, the offensive line does matter. The offensive coordinator does matter. The weapons do matter. Really quick, we got a super chat, so thank you so much for the super chat. Israel says, we'll be attending the Niners-Texans game. Excited. Maybe we'll run into you, Ashley. Go Niners. I hope you have a great time. I'm not sure if I'm going to be going to the actual game. I will be in Houston. I think we're staying towards downtown. I wanted to stay in the museum district, but the hotels were significantly more expensive there. But I still think I'm going to try to – it's apparently 5-minute Uber. Not a super long walk, but it might be too hot. I'm not sure. But I've heard they have a lot of
cool Houston
and stuff, so I want to check that out.
Imagine if tar was converted into weather and you've got Houston.
No. Bad. I go to a gym here in Oakland, and I was telling one of the people at the front desk, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to Houston," and he was like, "Oh, I'm from there, and I'll never go back." He's like, "Good luck. Bring lots of water, lots of electrolytes." So
the weather's bad. There's no zoning. There's multiple downtowns. Houston is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I would never willingly go to Houston if I could avoid it. Oh, you're going to Houston. Have a great time.
Yeah. And then Jesus says, what happened to Clutch Team Sports? That's Marco. I think Marco's still doing good. He's not doing YouTube, which is why we stopped streaming, but I'm still friends with Marco. When I talk on Twitter, I follow him on Instagram. I see him and his wife posting really cute photos. I have a friend that's in a fantasy team with him. So I think he's doing well. Anytime he wants to come on, I'd love to, I'm not the reason that he's not on, so I can't totally answer.
It's Marco's call.
Yeah,
I love Marco.
think
Marco
it's
really
hard.
knows his stuff. You
Yeah.
want to talk draft, talk to Marco. He knows.
Yeah. I think this stuff
He's
can be
great.
hard. Like a lot of us, Tom, me, Marco, do this more as a hobby right now. And so I think when work gets busy, sometimes it can be something to put on the back burner. I've been very lucky to be able to kind of prioritize having at least, I try to do, anywhere from 3 to 5, but I've made a promise to myself to at least do 2 shows a week. I have my show with Tom and my instant reaction, and pretty much no matter what's going on, I do those. And it's honestly like just was a commitment I made to myself when I was kind of going through a hard time. And I was like, hey, I want to do something that, isn't necessarily connected to money or anything else. It's a pure hobby, but I want to, make a promise that I'm going to prioritize it just for myself. And a big reason why I've been able to stick with that is because of guys like Tom and you guys in the chat, more of my regulars. I have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And I do make maybe $20 a month sometimes. So thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, but
I appreciate it.
This is a labor of love, and that shows. And appreciate the love from you and from the chat that we're connected, folks. We're Niner fans. We're content creators. We're everything. And it's just it's a pleasure to be here and to talk Niners with you and with everybody.
Now, one day when I'm a superstar making $1 million,
no, that ain't happening.
I'm only reading the super chats then. Okay, so you guys better get the normal chats in. I'm just kidding. But no, I love you guys so much. I had a really good time streaming today, talking with you guys.
This is great.
Be interesting to see how this Texans game worked out. Do you have like a score prediction?
Yeah, 23-17 Niners. I think that they're not necessarily going to be able to put them away because there's some issues on the defense. Without Bryce Huff, it's going to be harder. But I still think the Niners pull it out. Okay.
I had 14-17. I had a lower scoring game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like more 14-21 if the 49ers can get something going on offense. The reason I said lower scoring is because the Texans, in my opinion, have not been able to put up offense.
Yeah, and their offense is no good.
Offense. But they have a really good defense. 49ers have obviously played better, but they've still continued to struggle in the red zone specifically. They have a lot of yards, but I haven't seen them go against this good of a defense yet. And then on the opposite side for the 49ers, I do think the Texans are going to be able to score a little bit just because, like we said, I'm giving Robert Saleh a ton of credit. What I will say is if the 49ers defense holds the Texans to 20 or below, then I will not stand for anyone putting it on the 49ers defense if they lose.
Yeah.
Because that will be really impressive. Like we gotta adjust our expectations. You and I Tom have talked about this a lot. 49 fans are spoiled. We think that the defense should give up 0 points. If you look around the league, those aren't the games that are happening. Offenses need to score and need to be able to, keep up. They have George Kittle back. It's his 2nd week, so hopefully he actually gets some targets. I think Mac Jones with his quick release will be the better option, especially, when dealing with the fact that Brock is injured. So I'm interested to see this game. It's been fun to watch the 49ers play recently, even with all the injuries. You kind of go into the team, count them out, and then they prove you wrong. So now hopefully I'm not being too optimistic and jinxing them because we've done that before too.
Yeah, but Houston is really missing some key pieces. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have an offensive coordinator. It's really hard to win that way. Yeah. They've got a great defense, but the Niners have the counter in Mac Jones getting the ball out and an offense that's built to have the horizontal game to defeat a great pass rush. Yeah. So I think the Niners can get it done, but we'll see. I've been wrong on this team constantly, so don't listen to me. I'm 3-4 in my predictions for the Niners this year so far. I've just been completely off. I can't get a read on this team, but all credit to them that I write them off and say, no, they're too injured now. They can't pull this out of the hat, and they do. Yeah. And then I say, okay, because they did, now they've got character. They'll win the next game, and then they lose that one. So it's just you have no way of knowing. Box of chocolates Niners is 2025. You just don't know what you're going to get, but you do know you're going to get character, effort, 60 minutes, and great coaching, and that's pulled them to
Robert
5-2.
Saleh is really set that standard with him being back too, especially with the character and
Enjoy
effort
this
and all
while you've got it is my advice to everybody, because it's rare that you've got a great offensive coach in Shanahan, a solid head coach, and a
Yeah.
defensive coordinator that's top 3 in the league. When the Niners have had that in the past, they've had great success. So I would just say enjoy the ride. I don't know how much longer we're going to have Saleh, but I appreciate that he's here now.
Me too. Thank you, Tom, so much. Everyone, make sure
Thanks,
to follow
Ashley.
Ninercast on Twitter. And if you're watching this channel and this video and you haven't liked it, give it a like. Let us know in the comments your score prediction, and maybe rank a different thing. Someone told me that I should give people challenges to comment in the comments because that helps the algorithm. So grade Mac's performance so far, not like obviously this week, but as a total this season, and leave those grades in the comments. And maybe next week I'll talk about what I give him overall. So Tom will too. We'll add the Houston game into that performance. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Have a nice warm, if it's like where I am, rest of your Tuesday. Bye.